And now it's time for my last word on short-term gain, long-term pain, and last week's Egyptian brokered unity deal between rival Palestinian factions, Fatah and Hamas. If, and it's a big if, they manage to implement the deal, it should augur a win-win for both prominent players in Palestinian politics, at least for the short term. For 82-year-old Abu Mazen, whose plummeting approval ratings rival that of Donald Trump, it would reestablish Fatah authority over all of prospective Palestine. And given next to nil chances of a negotiated peace in his lifetime, it assures his legacy as pre-state unifier. For Hamas, largely abandoned by former patrons and increasingly resented by the nearly 2 million Gazans suffering under its bankrupt administration, the benefits are obvious. Despite Abu Mazen's insistence that Gaza will not become another Lebanon, there's nothing in the Cairo deal that requires it to relinquish command of its military wing or its arsenals. It would have to cede some type of border control, but freed from the burden of governing, Hamas could focus on building legitimacy at home and abroad, reintegrating itself in Fatah-run institutions, and waiting for the day when it can seize power through lawful elections. For Israel, the immediate gain is so compelling that even Prime Minister Netanyahu, despite his many preconditions for negotiating with a unity government, is urging restraint. That's because if Fatah controls the Israeli-Gazan border, he'll be able to complete a massive sensor-fused concrete border barrier that rises 6 meters above ground and penetrates dozens of meters underground. An underground iron dome. Multiple contractor teams have been working 24/7, 6 days a week for nearly a year to complete this huge undertaking, which will cut off Hamas's ability to infiltrate Israel through its network of assault tunnels. The IDF is preparing for Hamas to risk another war in order to save its cross-border tunnels before Israel denies them this strategic asset. The deal would prevent such war and allow Israel to focus on Iran and proxies at its northern border. But absent a major course correction by all involved stakeholders, gains almost inevitably will be followed by long-term pain. Fatah could find itself in its long-standing policy of nonviolent resistance eclipsed by Hamas or even more extreme factions. And Israel could face renewed terror not only in Gaza, but throughout the West Bank, where U.S. and EU-trained security forces could be forced to fly the Islamic flag of Iranian-backed Hamas. It's imperative that all work together with no conditions or unnecessary obstacles to bolster Fatah while pressuring Hamas to accept the quartet's conditions of nonviolence, recognizing Israel, and honoring all previous agreements. If that happens, and again, that's a big if, it just might be possible to preempt or at least defer the pain to come. And that's my last word. Please join us again next week for a new edition of Strictly Security at I-24 News. And until then, wishing you a safe and pleasant evening from the Jaffa Port.